I'm an author of 3 cookbooks. I have my own spice line. I have a Moscato wine that just dropped out. I have a kids coloring book with cooking activities for the kids. Gumbo mix, a jambalaya mix that can be made into 3 different ways. It can be made Creole jambalaya, Cajun jambalaya, or it can be just made dirty rice. Seafood ball. So if you want any of these products, you can go to www.chefdonaldsmith.com, or the cookbooks are available on Amazon.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Robin Shine, and get ready for another episode where I introduce you to another amazing, interesting, intriguing, and inspiring African-American man from the United States. They come from a variety of professions, various parts of this nation, and all of them bring their wisdom. So, chill out, relax, and listen in. Make sure you follow us. We're on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, you can go to 365brothers.com/Linktree, LINKTREE, 365brothers.com/Linktree. You'll find links to all things 365 Brothers, as well as links to anything Robin Shine. Again, thank you, and let's listen in. Today, we are speaking with a chef. He is originally from New Orleans. He specializes in both Creole and Cajun food. He has won competitions in Gumbo. In 2018, he was voted one of Louisiana's best chefs. And in 2020, he received the Culinary Excellence Award from the National Black Chef Association. So you know, if they said he was good, you know he's good. And also, he was named Culinary Ambassador for Louisiana for the National Black Chef Association. So I don't know what else there is to say that he can cook, okay? He's not only great in the kitchen, outside of the kitchen, he's involved in his community. He volunteers regularly with the Salvation Army. He is also founder and president of the Urban Chef Alliance, and founder of Cooking for Life, a 501c3. And finally, he is a member of the American Culinary Federation and the Association of African American Chefs, Jug's Social Club crew of NOMTOC or NOMTOC, and the National Black Chef Association, which we already know because they've already said this brother can cook. In addition, he's also part of 100 Black Men and Glad Tiding Men of Distinction. So in other words, he's making a difference in and out of the kitchen. He's known as Chef D. We are speaking today with Chef Donald Smith. Welcome, Chef D.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And just so you know, we are conducting this interview. He's in his restaurant because he's busy like that. And so if you hear a little bit of a hiss coming in and out, that's just what's happening in the restaurant. So thank you for your understanding. And so with that, Chef D, before we go into our usual questions, is there anything that you'd like to share with our listeners to help them get to know you better?
Yeah. How y'all doing today? I'm known around as the underground chef of New Orleans, Chef D. I mean, I've been a restaurateur. I've been cooking for over 30 years.
And also, just so you know, Chef D has a ton of products. So as we're going through this interview and you're listening, you just need to know that there are spices, there's a wine, there are books, there's a coloring book for kids, and we're going to make sure that you get a chance to find and get all of that. And let us jump into these questions. What is your favorite song or movie, either now or all time?
My favorite movie, you might think it's kind of crazy for adults to say, but I'm going to say my favorite movie was Ratatouille. It's a cartoon movie. It's about a mouse that wants to be a chef. And he's working and he's just coming up out of the gutter into the kitchen. And he's working, his name was Linguini. And he's working with this guy who they're trying to make a chef, who's a human, name was Remy. So he was doing all the cooking for Remy, and they thought it was Remy cooking when it actually was the mouse that was cooking. So that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. And when I tell people that, they say, you got to be kidding me. But that was one of my favorite movies.
What was it about that storyline that really got you? I mean, we know it's in part because it's in the kitchen, it's becoming a great chef. What was it that really had this particular movie about cooking stand out for you?
It was the determination of this mouse. It was just determined to be a great chef. And it was just his determination. He just came through and he showed this other young guy how to do it, what to do, how it should taste. Because being a great chef, I mean, it's more than just cooking. You have to have the determination to want to do this. It's more to cooking. It's not just cooking. It's a job. Like me, I work 16 to 17 hours a day with less than maybe 4 hours of sleep. I mean, because my mind is always running. Mm-hmm. People say, do you write down your menus for the next day? No, I have this cafe and I have a restaurant inside of a private country club. And they'd be like, what's the special? I don't know what the special is because I haven't went to bed and woke up with nothing on my mind yet. So I don't know what your special is going to be. So it's the determination
right. of, Well, and isn't that true for anything we're going to excel at? And it's clear that you excel at what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
What is a favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
When they say life gives you 1,000 reasons not to smile. So, some people just cry and they cry. But like I said, you might cry for that moment, but why continue to cry? Because that cry is only going to turn into a smile. So you have to keep pushing for whatever you want. Today might not be great, but tomorrow going to be better. The next day going to get better and it's going to get better. So you have to just keep on pushing.
I remember talking with you before we got on camera, and just that, as with any entrepreneur, there are businesses that succeed and then there's a season for them. And then you may have to stop and then start over and do something new. And I can see where that determination and that pushing has made a difference. If you'd stopped after the first or after the second, you wouldn't have all that you shared with us. And all the accolades that are all within the last few years. Those are just the most recent accolades. Let's talk about how you actually got into cooking. I'm really excited about season 5. I'm making a point to spend a little more time talking to each guest about their area of expertise or their field. And so, Donald, if you could just share a little bit about where this love of cooking came from or how you got into that industry, just a little bit so our listeners can, get a feel for it.
I actually started cooking when I was 7 years old. 7 years old, my mom used to call me on the phone and she used to say, keep it on LO. LO mean low. So she would walk me through, before, like I've been telling people, before they were latchkey kids, we were latchkey kids. I mean, our moms worked 2 and 3 jobs and you had to go home by yourself and lock that door and then open it. So she had to call me on the phone and tell me, keep it on low. Then after years of that, we moved with my uncle, who was a phenomenal cook. And I just watched him and I watched all of the different things that he done. And I mean, I just picked up to it. I went back to school late in my years, like in my late 20s. I started going to culinary school because I wanted to, become a chef and I needed the credentials that you needed to do that. So I went to culinary school in San Francisco. I started in San Francisco, then I moved back to New Orleans and I went to 2 Votech schools and I went to the community college and all graduated with all my certificates and an associate's degree. And I just started doing this. I started my first catering business before I even had my culinary license. So it's just been a dream of mine. I even going to say it was a dream because I didn't know this was what I was going to wind up doing. But when I figured this is what I wanted to do, I put all into it. And I started working at the Hilton like in 99 or 98. Going through orientation, it was like, well, the Hilton paid for you to go to school if you go to school. And I thought about it, and I was like, if the Hilton paid for you to go to school, how come so many of you people around here never went back to school when they're going to pay for it? And I took that opportunity, and the Hilton paid for me to go to culinary school at Delgado Community College.
Okay.
I mean, it was just something that I've been cooking, like I said, over 30 years.
Wow. Well, like I said, the accolades you've achieved speak volumes for the fact that you went into the right profession. And speaking of your profession, this question is about your accomplishments, and it's in 2 parts. First, which accomplishment is the one that means the most to you personally, Chef D? And then which one is the one that tends to impress others most? So which one is the one that means the most to you personally?
Growing up in New Orleans and being around the culture of New Orleans, of Mardi Gras and Second Line and New Orleans Black Mardi Gras Indians. I mean, I grew up in the Mardi Gras season. And 2023, I will be crowned one of New Orleans' second oldest African-American Mardi Gras Parade Cruise King for 2023.
Wow.
And that's like one of the biggest accomplishments that a person can get in New Orleans, to be crowned a king for an organization. And the parade before Mardi Gras on the floats with all the people. I mean, I've been riding in Mardi Gras for years, but to be crowned as king is one of the biggest accomplishments of my life. So
that's phenomenal. And one of my BFs is from New Orleans. And so I have some, tangential understanding of that culture. But also I remember watching a documentary on some of the Black crews that are out there and that whole process and how the deep history of it. And if I hadn't watched that documentary, I might not understand the significance of what you're sharing. But thank goodness I did, because I know that is the heart and soul of New Orleans culture. So yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations.
And like you were saying earlier, in the clubs that I went, the club that I'm in for this, and you said the word right, NOTOP. Most people don't say it, but that NOTOP stands for New Orleans Most Talked Of Club. So that's one of the, like I said, one of the second oldest Black Mardi Gras organizations in New Orleans for Mardi Gras.
Wow. And I encourage, if any of you are curious what all this means, if I can find the link to the documentary, I will put that in the show notes. If not, you can just go on YouTube and look up the history of New Orleans Black crews. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And then what about the accomplishment that impresses others most?
For me, what impresses most people is I never change my song. I sing the same song over and over. My record never changed. I got hurt in 2004. I had my first restaurant in the Bay Area of California. And I went home for Mardi Gras and I got into a bad car accident. And they thought I wouldn't even walk again.
Wow.
And my song been, like I said, I sing the same song. I haven't changed. I haven't changed my vision. I haven't changed my dream. Like, I am not cooking here today and tomorrow I'm gonna say I'm going over here and be a construction worker or start a construction business. That's not my dream, or that's not my passion. So I've been struggling in this business for years. I have some good businesses. I have some that fail. I have some that then flooded out through the floods of New Orleans. But I've never changed my story. And I try to impress people on a daily basis, even with my posts that I post on Facebook. I post to people, but I'm actually talking to myself because I have to keep myself inspired and impressed also. So if I post something, I can read it back to myself and, I'm reading to myself what I just wrote for somebody else. But I'm actually talking to myself too. I post today, you never know who's watching your journey. You never know who's watching you. They got kids that be on these channels, on Facebook, on these social media platforms. And then you never know. I mean, they're watching, I never knew an African-American man can be a chef and be on TV and make books and have his own spice line. Yes. Yeah, so that's going, I got a little mentor that's in New Orleans now. He's 13 years old and he's have his own spice line now.
What?
He's got his own spice line. I mean, you never know who's watching you. I tell people that all the time.
I love hearing that. I love inspiring the youth.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I have to tell you, of your many products, I was surprised when I saw the children's cookbook that's also a coloring book to, get kids in the kitchen, kids with their parents. And
yes.
I think that's amazing. I love that. Of course, everybody knows I'm an educator by day. So I'm just like, that's phenomenal for me.
Yes.
Of all of that. Yeah. What accomplishments are there without our health? Last season, I interviewed Dr. Gregory Hall, and this brother has done extensive research on the nutritional needs of African Americans. He created Sequence vitamins. They are specifically designed to address the deficiencies that lead to some of the preventable diseases that affect us in the Black community more than others, things like diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease. So I've got a link in the show notes. Please check out his vitamins. I've been taking them for 3 months. I bought them the day I interviewed him because I was so impressed, and I am loving how I feel. So again, I want to recommend you check out Sequence Vitamins. And because I love them so much, and because he is one of our 365 brothers, you get a discount. So check it out. Just click the link you'll find in the show notes. And by the way, for listeners, I just want you to know I am going to ask Chef D for a couple tips. All right. So we're going to get a couple tips, but I'm going to say that towards the end. But what I want to ask you now is, what is a conversation, moment, or event that either changed the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
When I moved back to California in 2001, I think it was, that's when I got moved back to California. And I met this person, and this person just became an instant mentor to me. You know, it just helped me to change myself. And just working around this person, and he wasn't a chef, he was a bishop. And I'm just put it like that. He was a bishop, and I became his personal chef. And I worked by him side by side. And that really gave me inspiration to do more, because he would always say, Chef Brother Donald, you need to keep pushing yourself, keep pushing yourself. And every time I opened a restaurant, he gave me all the support that he can give me. And it was just, you know, you have to have people in your life that's going to push you. You don't need people that's going to take away from your life. You need people that's going to add to your life. So if sometime, you know, you got to break your circle down and minus some people off of that, take them off. It'll be okay. You need people to add to your life at this point in time in life, not take away from your life.
And how did you become his personal chef? How did that come about?
Actually, my mother used to go to the church. And when I moved there, we were in Sam's one day. He was about to get inaugurated into bishopship. And we were in Sam's, Costco, one of them. And his wife come in the store. My mom was like, oh, my son is a chef and blah, 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 you know. She was like, oh, my husband is about to be inaugurated into bishopship. And we looking for somebody to cater. I said, okay. And I done that first job, and I just impressed him so much that I instantly became his personal chef. He would bring celebrities in town. He would bring these great bishops in town, men of God in town. And he was just like, Brother Donald, do what you do. We need to make an impression.
I'm so glad I asked. And it says something about how opportunities present themselves. It's just a random conversation, people sharing, and boom. And now he's been a lifelong mentor. That's great. So Chef D, have you had any interactions with law enforcement? And this question is the one that really started the podcast here. It doesn't have to be negative, positive, negative, interesting, funny. Anything you want to share about your interactions with law enforcement?
Let me say it like this. I'm from New Orleans. I'm an urban city guy that grew up in New Orleans. I never been to penitentiary for drugs. I never been to penitentiary for rape or murder. But yes, I have sold drugs. And I can remember one Christmas morning, I'm going up the street trying to get back to my kids for Christmas, but somebody needed some product. And I'm trying to get to them to get them this product. And the cops pulled me over on Christmas morning. I got 10 pounds of marijuana in my car. The cops pulled me over. He walked to the door. He said, good morning, Merry Christmas. I said, how you doing, officer? He said, you were speed, you know that? I said, kind of, sort of. I said, I was trying to just get somewhere to get back to my kids for Christmas. I can see he was ready to get in my car and search it, but he got a call. It was an urgent call that he had to go. And all I could do was say, thank you, Jesus. That's all I can do. Because if he would have went in my car, he'd have found what I had in my car.
10 pounds ain't a small amount.
No, it's not. It's not a small amount.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, coming up in New Orleans as a kid, like I said, I've never been to prison. I've been to jail. I've had encounters, you know, DWIs. I was a boosting king before all of this here. I would go in the store and boost whatever I needed, but it was for me because I needed to look good. I needed to smell good. It wasn't to go and sell to nobody, but and it ain't like I didn't have the money, but I learned the game of boosting, and I would go in the store and I would boost. I would walk in your store and talk to you and have the best conversation and be dressed up from head to toe. And as we talking, I'm getting more stuff to dress up more because I'm just trying to get in your store and get out. I am trying to go to jail. And as long as you had that conversation with them and you talking to them and you dress nice, they ain't watching you. I got chased behind one day, but I got away.
So I'm curious because we know where you are right now, right? And I appreciate you sharing where you come from. What was it that changed that had you go, okay, wait a second, that's not my life anymore?
I just stopped on my own. It was just something that I just figured out that that's not what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to wind up in prison. Now, like I said, by this time I had 3 kids, and my father had been in prison my whole life. So I couldn't leave my kids and go to prison. And doing things like that was going to lead to me going to prison.
Yeah. And
I backed myself out of the game. I mean, there's many days I thought about it, picking up the phone and calling somebody, can you put me back in the game? Nah. It's easy to get in the game, but it's hard to get out the game. And right now, I have too much to lose to even think about getting back in the game.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that because, I love that I get to spotlight all these brothers and their success, and they all have different starting off points. But the thing is that the people listening need to hear what are the choices that have you find your path and stay on that path. And so it matters to me that people get to hear that as well. And so at some point you were just like, I got too much to lose. I'm in a different game now and I can't play both of them, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, you can't play both of them.
Right. Exactly. Well, our signature question, if the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, whether she's a mother, lover, stranger, neighbor, friend, you call it. If the United States was a woman, what would you say to her?
I would ask her, what's the future of America? What's the future? What do the future hold for our youth that's coming up in this world? This world was a woman and that woman can answer that for me. Like, what's the major challenge? What are we looking forward for in the future? How can it be a change? What can we do to change it? Everybody keeps saying we need the village back. When are we going to bring the village back? The village is us. The village ain't nobody. The village is us and our community is the village. Whether you be in the Latino community or Caucasian community or African-American community, we are the village. We all have to step up to the plate and bring back and save our youth. Because our youth has failed us. I mean, it's not going to say they're failing us. I think we failed our youth because we were supposed to be the examples. And that's why I work so hard now to try to show youth that there is a different way. I mean, it's crime everywhere in the world. It's crime everywhere. And the crime is being committed by our youth. So for the United States of being a woman or a lady or madam or whatever you want to call them, what would you do for the future for our youth?
Yeah, I love it. A forward-looking question. Where we headed? Yeah. And I also hear you posing that question not only to the United States as I pose the question, but really I hear you saying it to each and every one of us as citizens, as residents. What do we say is the direction and what are we doing? So,
yes.
Yeah. Speaking of women, beyond the generalities and the stereotypes, what is one thing that you wish all females, mothers, sisters, cousins, lovers, what is something you wish women understood about the experience of Black men in the United States?
Women have to understand that we as men, we have feelings. We are supposed to be the head of the house, the provider, the protector. But what happens when we at our low point? When do you pick us back up and bring us back to that point instead of breaking us down? Don't break us down if we're down. Pull us back up like we're supposed to pull you back up. It's just, women today, they don't think, some of them go back and they tell you, oh, my grandmother done it this way with my grandpa. My grandmother done this here. No, that's why it's so many different avenues of different families. Your grandpa got so many kids because your grandma let your grandpa do all of these other things. And you think that's not the right way. She wasn't helping him. She wasn't picking him back up. She wasn't trying to bring him back in her house to raise her kids and to be with her. He was out being with your Auntie Sally, your cousin around the corner, you know? And it's that women have to understand, like I keep saying, understand that we have feelings. Some days we might need this, you know, I love you. Just out of the air. Some people say a man ain't supposed to cry. I beg to differ on that. I beg to differ. And if you don't have that woman in your corner that's not going to push you, you need to, like I say about the minors, her too. And that goes for cousins, sisters, brothers, mama. If they're not pushing you, you move to the side. Because you need to be encouraged on a daily basis by everybody that's in your circle.
Truth. And, you know, I'm already hearing a theme really in what you're sharing, which is the importance of our community. Like you're saying it in so many different ways, but we don't succeed on our own, you know? Thank you. What is a moment that exemplifies power for you? And it could be one of your earliest moments of feeling powerful or one of your most recent. But what is a moment that exemplifies being powerful for you?
Power for me is like an ego. I don't give myself my own ego. I don't brush myself up to be powerful.
What I'm really asking is, I know that it matters to have the experience of being powerful in life, to know that, you know, when you're talking about keep pushing and then all the areas of success that you've had, there are bound to have been moments where you had the opportunity to experience yourself as powerful in order to know that you can push through. I'm excited about collecting a collection of these moments that for Black men have demonstrated that where they felt powerful.
For like power, I mean, it's like power is leadership. So to me, in our community in New Orleans, a couple of years ago, we had this thing they called me. They're like, Luke, we need you to put this together and help us put this rally on. I'm like, I'm in Las Vegas right now on a job, but just give me a second and I'm gonna reach out to everybody I can reach out to with this and see what I can do. And it was just like you said, it was power then, but it was more being of a leader because everybody started reaching back out to me. Let's make this happen, Lou. Let's do this. Let's do this. Pastors and city leaders and social clubs. I mean, they just started reaching back out to me. So that gave me a sense of power. And when I opened my first restaurant in California in 2003, that was a power move because I left a job. I just left a job. I'm like, man, I'm tired of working for somebody. I can go and do this for myself. If I'm gonna do this for them every day, I can get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go open my own restaurant. And when I got my first keys to my first restaurant in San Leandro, California, that was power.
Wow.
That was power.
I hear that. I don't just hear that, I feel that. That's a bold move. That is a bold move to say, I'm going to stand on my own as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also appreciate the first moment that you shared, you know, which you did clarify it in terms of it being a moment of leadership, right? But that is power to say that, to put your word out there that something's going to happen and have other people line up behind the word you gave and make it so. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is definitely power. Now, I love this question. I get to ask you, there was this magic wand that I had, and I could grant you 5 hours with any other Black man, living or deceased. Who would it be? And what would you do, or what would you talk about?
Honestly, that one man to me would be and he's me. We may be the same age, and that would be Master P. I look up to Master P. We come up in the same hood. We never was friends. We don't cross paths. But I watched this brother. What would he do? I mean, he's got almost the same setup that I've got. He's got all these different inventions that he's doing, and he's one powerful young black brother in the industry. If I can sit down with him for 5 hours and just pick his brains, it would be the best 5 hours of my life. I mean, it would just be question after question after question. How did you start this? Where did you do this? Who done this? And it's just because I know he started from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
He started from the bottom, and I know he would give me the right answers that I need to hear. It would either be him or Tyler Perry.
Okay.
Either one of those brothers.
Got it. I love it because I can hear it's like earlier you said you've been singing the same song. And even in who you want to spend your time with, if you had that opportunity, it's the same song. How can I get here? I'm right here. How I get here? I'm right here. How I get here? I love it. So I promised the listeners that I would ask about some tips. And so before we get to this last part of our conversation, I want to, talk to a sister, talk to my listeners. It's summertime, people are grilling, and we talked about your gumbo and your restaurants and your spices, but you're like a grill master. So what's one or two things you could share with my listeners, things that, only if someone from New Orleans could let them know how to make something they do on a regular a little bit better in the kitchen or on the grill?
I mean, take your meat and always give your meat a nice washing, clean your meat good, but marinate your meat. Seasoning is good. Put some dry rub. Some people like dry rub. You can even come back after you marinate your meat for a couple hours. You can come back and just pat it dry with a towel and then dry rub it again. So now your meat has soaked all that flavor up inside, and you're going to put that good rub on the outside. Like I said, I got some barbecue rub if y'all want it. I got some barbecue sauce. You can get it. But when you grilling, you take one of them cold beers you're sitting out there drinking and mix it with your spices and let your meat marinate in there. Take a glass of wine and dump that on your meat and let your meat marinate with your seasoning. You can take your barbecue sauce and liquefy it up a little bit more and just let your meat soak in that before you put it on the grill. And now you got that good barbecue flavor all on the outside and it's all inside all the way to the bone. I mean, I can give you tip after tip after tip, and you just keep your fire nice and hot. A lot of people think they're grill masters or grill professionals, but grill your meat on the outside of the fire. Don't grill your meat don't have to be over the fire. Grill your meat to the side. Build your fire on one side and grill your meat on the other side. So your meat don't get all, it's gonna slow cook. Let slow process, slow cooking.
That right there, that to me, of course, people are gonna be like, well, girl, obviously you don't grill. No, I don't. But if I was, I probably would have, just put it right in the center, thinking that's what I should do. So yeah, that's great. By the way, my neighbors, I guess they were right on cue. We started talking about grilling up and now there's some music in the background. I don't know if listeners will be able to hear it or not, but they were like, yeah, let's talk about some barbecue. They put that music on. So, all right. And let me tell you something. We're going to tell you again, and the links are going to be in the show notes. If you want to get some of Chef D's personally created spices, rubs, like you want to use what he's been using to become voted one of Louisiana's best chefs. And y'all know what that means, like I said earlier. And just in 2020, he received the Culinary Excellence Award from the National Black Chef Association. So I don't think I need to say anything else to encourage you to check out some of his products. Okay. All right. So Chef D, before I finish up, where can they find all your stuff? And again, listeners, they'll be in the show notes. But Chef D, for somebody who's driving, who just want to hear it in their ear, where can they go for your stuff?
You can go to www.chefdonaldsmith.com.
All right. And once you get home, if you're driving, just go in the show notes, click on that link, and you can check it all out. So as we finish up here, I just want to ask you, Chef D, now that we've had this conversation, Is there anything that you're taking away from having had this conversation, or anything you learned about yourself from having this conversation?
And yeah, I'm always encouraged when I'm able to do a different platform and talk and to speak to people that I don't know around the world and get a chance for people to know who I am. I mean, it's always a great experience. It's just good to get to know people. I mean, I might not never get to meet them personally, but that means once they go and subscribe to my channel or to my page, I get to see, different people name popping up in my phone, like, oh, you got a new subscriber. You got a new subscriber. And that's just, even if they're not buying anything for right now, I mean, I got a new subscriber. I know somebody has went to my website and looked at it, or somebody has saw one of these podcasts or one of these magazine articles that I've done.
Yes. Yes, it's expanding our reach and expanding our community, which, by the way, I'm always left with a particular view, like an overall impression of each brother. And I got to say, I've said it throughout this interview, but you really are the expression of community for me. It's both in you volunteering for multiple organizations, including the Salvation Army, your work in the community, but also just the way that you lead. The way that people can call on you to say, hey, this is something we're putting on. Please be a contribution with your culinary excellence. The way that you utilize mentors and mentor, like that 13-year-old who is now got his own spice, his own collection of spices that are available. You are a contribution to community. You are a stand for community. And I appreciate all of that. So thank you for inspiring us to own, embrace, and support our communities.
Thank you.
Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. Lastly, I just want to let you know, producing a podcast, it takes something, and I'm really grateful to have partnered with alidu.com. They make publishing easy. There's a link in the show notes for anyone who either has a podcast or is thinking about a podcast. You don't need to learn all that sound balancing and compression. Save all that. Use your time for what matters, interviewing and sharing the stories that your podcast brings. Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. I certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love. 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.
You got a new subscriber, and that's just, even if they're not buying anything for right now, I mean, I got a new subscriber. I know somebody has went to my website and looked at it, or somebody has saw one of these podcasts or one of these magazine articles that I've done.
Yes. Yes, it's expanding our reach and expanding our community, which, by the way, I'm always left with a particular view, like an overall impression of each brother. And I got to say, I've said it throughout this interview, but you really are the expression of community for me. It's both in that, as we said earlier, you volunteering for multiple organizations, including the Salvation Army, your work in the community, but also just the way that you lead. The way that people can call on you to say, hey, this is something we're putting on. Please be a contribution with your culinary excellence. The way that you utilize mentors and mentor, like that 13-year-old who is now got his own spice, his own collection of spices that are available. You are a contribution to community. You are a stand for community. And I appreciate all of that. So thank you for inspiring us to own, embrace, and support our communities.
Thank you. I'm an author of 3 cookbooks. I have my own spice line. I have a Moscato wine that just dropped out. I have a kids coloring book. That's an activity book with recipes in it. It's got different recipes and cooking activities for the kids. This is my next cookbook that's about to come out. It's actually it's with 4 other chefs that I collaborated with. I got spices, all kind of spices and food items. The gumbo mix, a jambalaya mix that can be made into 3 different ways. It can be made Creole jambalaya, Cajun jambalaya, or it can be just made dirty rice. Seafood ball. So if you want any of these products, you can go to www.chefdonaldsmith.com, or the cookbooks are available on Amazon.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, man. All right. And then I'm actually going to introduce that. So let's do it this way. You are a contribution to community. You are a stand for community. And I appreciate all of that. So thank you for inspiring us to own, embrace, and support our communities.
Thank you. I'm an author of 3 cookbooks. I have my own spice line. I have a Moscato wine that just dropped out. I have a kids coloring book. That's an activity book with recipes in it. It's got different recipes and cooking activities for the kids. This is my next cookbook that's about to come out. It's actually it's with 4 other chefs that I collaborated with. I got spices, all kind of spices and food items. The gumbo mix, a jambalaya mix that can be made into 3 different ways. It can be made Creole jambalaya, Cajun jambalaya, or it can be just made dirty rice. Seafood ball. So if you want any of these products, you can go to www.chefdonaldsmith.com, or the cookbooks are available on Amazon.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, man. All right. And then I'm actually going to introduce that. So let's do it this way.
On any of these products, you can go to www.chefdonaldsmith.com, or the cookbooks are available on Amazon.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, man. All right. And then I'm actually going to introduce that. So let's do it this way.